Okay, we're recording. Good deal, everyone. As always, I'm Brian Kynes, the creator of the Tales of Ulran campaign setting. We use Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition to tell our story and play through it, and all the awesome folks that are meeting me early this Sunday are going to help me write another chapter in the book. It's Sunday, and of course, as usual, we play in the afternoon, but it's Super Bowl Sunday. So a few of us are trying to be the best fans of the NFL as we can, despite many reasons not to be. But we're going to try to have some beers and do a thing this afternoon. So we pushed this game up to a little bit earlier time frame. So thanks everybody for making that adjustment. I appreciate it. We'll go ahead and do introductions. Jeremy, you're first, sir.
I'm Jeremy. I'll be playing the part of Merc, who is a human spirit paladin, who is also piloting a giant angelic construct that is a seraphim.
Well done. Awesome. And Jeremy sounds way better than he did last week. Holy cow. The recording was great. Going back through it was really, really fun. But man, there were times, and I'm glad I was sitting there on it. I had blasted your volume, trying to get you up there because I knew you just felt like shit, man. But it was. I was glad you were there. We had a good time of it. Go ahead, Colby.
Um, my name is Colby, and I will be playing a barbarian slash ranger, and his name is Kiltusk, and he's also a native on the islands we are currently at.
Awesome. Corey.
Hello, I am Corey. I play Darius, the human bard of the College of Swords, who is afflicted with a somewhat now maybe people kind of understand disease of lycanthropy, who also is waiting for the day that one day when we're watching these videos back and we see one video where Brian goes, yeah, so we're playing in the year 2053 because we went to the future, and people go, what? How is that possible?
Yeah.
You know, because he likes to, in the beginning, likes to tell everyone what we're doing, and it's like, how do they know?
Yeah.
How do they know?
It's a valid point. Yeah.
Yeah, just get them on our page. I get it.
Yeah, right.
but yeah, so I'm looking forward to figuring out our next steps here, as Darius has been very clear and very open with the fact that we'll be dicking around too long and shit's about to hit the fan, and if it does, it's only our faults for taking this long.
Wow. Point made, sir. And last but certainly not least today is Bella.
I am Bella. I play Silowin, the former Maiden of Song Bard, now Avian Sky Lancer, who's chilling with her good pal Merc currently.
Nice. Yeah, had some awesome things happen in the last episode. I was a big fan of it. Just kind of watching back and seeing how everything kind of went down. And thank goodness that went well. I think we ended it on a positive note. It seemed that Shaman of the Ozomen kind of stepped in and ended things where he felt it needed to be ended, that enough had been proven. Darius already took one of their folks down. Jeremy was dealing some heavy damage. Kiltusk scaled the statue, was doing overdraw shot. What, you rolled like a 20 or something on that one overdraw shot check, didn't you, Colby?
Yeah.
It was, yeah, it had like 3d6 to it. You were putting it down. It was pretty good, man. So, remind me that once the dust had settled, and Rursi, which is that attractive female cleric of the Atlati warriors, she was the one that was escorting people back over into our location, the side that the hunting lodge is on. Yeah, I knew that Darius was like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's get over there. Let's do this. I don't remember if Brahmas had already taken that hand. Had you? You had. Okay, and Colby, did we role play through you doing the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay. And then Silowin went back to her room inside of that because she learned a very tough lesson, which is great for our homebrew, that although we have armor points and things are protecting us, things still rattle our bones. And every time our exterior get hits, we may not take the blunt of that, but we are taking non-lethal damage on the inside, how it rattles us. And you were down pretty low, if I'm not mistaken. You were hurting.
Oh yeah, and it definitely solidified how our game mechanics and how the damage is, because I was counting at one point way back like non-lethal damage as lethal damage.
Yeah.
Which knocked it down even further. So then when it definitely reinforced the rules and mechanics of the game. I will
It's a
not
nice
make that
thing.
mistake again.
Yeah, and when you've got heavy armor on and something hits you and you're like, the armor took all that, it wasn't enough to break through it. You take 20 points of damage to your armor. Bam! It didn't get you lethally, but let's say you have 1 every 5 on your non-lethal damage. Well, if you did 20, then if you do that division right, you took 4 lethal just from the impact of it, or knocking you around and stuff, and it adds up, and then when you have so many times that armor gets hit, it breaks down after a while. And when that armor breaks, you're pretty much just carrying around shit. I mean, it has some use even in its most broken state, but it is not that great when you're in the thick of things. So it's a nice dynamic, and it adds role play to what we do too. Those things kind of matter. Working on armor, making it better, using it and identifying the problems with it. I like all that shit in here. So, but back to the story. Moving on. Let's do a hit. Let's go ahead and do this, Jeremy. Grab me a 1d10, buddy. How hard is it raining? We've got to have some relief. We have got to have some relief, Jeremy.
Well, if you think about it, whoever is up above, they are having relief if it continues going.
Yeah, you know what? I like what you did there. I like
Okay,
it.
so we did have some relief at one point in time. It did stop raining, but the canopy was so saturated it just kept coming.
Right
down.
now, just so we're clear, 1 means little to no rain whatsoever, just what's falling off the trees, which would last at this point for a fucking decade. And a 10 means the gods are relieved.
1.
A 1. Goodness gracious. I can get rid of weather effects. I mean, I don't have a map today, but yeah, that's oh, yeah, that felt good. No, thank you. Whoo! I was half asleep, and boy, I'm snapped out now. That's good stuff, man. I literally felt pressure in my ears. My ears went like when I did that just now. Whew, that's exciting stuff. So anyway, a 1. That is awesome. So when we're in the other side of this thing now, the rain finally is starting to subside. Let me kind of paint out the picture so we don't forget everybody that's out here. So you have, we're going to say Valdera and Bastille are standing side by side right after she had gave Darius compliments on the way he performed and the way he took it to him there in the last turn. She seems to be excited, enthralled, and gaining confidence in you as part of this group. There's a familiar look. When she was giving you these compliments, Corey, there was a look of almost like camaraderie, like you have something that you're dealing with too. You have a badass side that you can unleash as well. There was something, this was warrior to warrior talk that she was giving you when this went down. I don't know how clear I made that, but I want to make sure to make a point of that. Silhouette. Yeah, go ahead.
Didn't she hit on him on the boat? Wasn't that the one that hit on him on the boat?
Well, I know what she said. Now, if you think that was hitting and flirting with you, that's for you to decide.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's how Darius took it. That's why he was like, I'm married.
Okay. Yeah.
So basically, that's kind of the gist of why the role play was the way it was. It's kind of one of those like, hey man, I know, and he's like, but if my wife catches you talking smack against me, she's gonna eat you alive.
Nice.
Literally.
Those are inside thoughts, or do you want to rewind and say? Okay.
No, inside.
It's
No one
all
is gonna
good.
know for a long time that this is because of his wife.
Right
Well,
on.
let me rephrase that she's likened to Ruby.
Correct. Okay. So, Silouan, just so I can have you kind of know exactly where you're at and what you're doing, you had went back to your chambers inside of Brahmas. You have your vial of ash and stuff that you collected. What else did you get? Was that it with those rolls? I don't think you got anything else other than that,
No,
did you?
no, she didn't roll very well, and everything was sort of disintegrating anyway. So
Yeah.
she kind of just scooped up a little bit of ash and sort of was catching up with everybody. Yeah.
Okay. So when you're going back to your room, and we've discussed several times how this place looks, it's a combination of a bare, empty castle chamber, but it has been elaborately furnished with things from not only a combination of Merc's mind, but your own kind of just on things. We've talked about, there's not a whole lot of things that you can take out of here, but there are things that you found inside the castle. Just the inside of Brahma's books, different chairs from different rooms, different paintings on walls that depicted things that you liked, and you're like, I'm taking that, and you've kind of collected this neat little TGI Friday like wall assembly of stuff in this room in here, which is outstanding to think about. In that moment, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, sometimes sleep is just sleep. It's no more complicated than that. Was there anything that you were wanting to do before you decide to just crash for a while?
Yeah, for sure. So something that came to mind just now as you're talking about like her finding different stuff and making her little mishmash. I kind of also like the idea of maybe copies of stuff that matter to her somehow popped up in Brahmas. Like I'm pretty sure like the loot that she had like growing up or whatever somehow like I think showed up maybe hear me out, correct me if this doesn't fit, but maybe like showed up like randomly in a hallway or like next to the training ground or that sort of thing. It's not the actual loop, but it looks like it. If that's okay. But I think she's back in her cozy space. I think she may review her journal. Is there any way that I can roll to see if she recalls anything?
Absolutely. Do me a history check with disadvantage.
Okay. Let's see. Well, I don't think yeah, the first one was a 3. So
What was the second one?
16.
Okay.
Wisdom you said wisdom?
Yeah. But you're also using the book. You're not trying to just recall things from if you're using the book. Go ahead and just give me one more straight roll. That's my mistake. Normally when you come across something in the real world, I have you do the disadvantage roll, but you're using the book as something to help you. So what's just your straight roll here with that and your history?
So history's intelligence, so that's +3 to a 13, so 16.
Oh, now I think history is wisdom, is it not?
What was it? I think it's intelligence. Right.
I don't know about that. In a second, I'll tell you, because I'm pretty sure.
I thought so too, but I was looking on it. It makes
It's
sense
true.
to be wisdom, but
Yeah, it is. That's crazy. It's intelligence. Because I always played by, things that you have already dealt with, but you're recalling our history and things that you're trying to perceive moving forward that have not happened to you before. So perception is wisdom.
I think it makes more sense for it to be wisdom, so that would be a 14.
Yeah, okay. In this instance, 14 is the overall roll. As you're going back through the book, and I'm curious, what are you writing down as you're laying on your bed sideways or wherever you want to be at this point, or you could be sitting in your chair decompressing. What's the beginning thoughts as to what you're putting down in your book as to all the shit that just happened?
Oh my god. Actually, I literally have kind of her book over there, but it's sort of like it was descriptions of the hellscape and kind of the creatures that she encountered and kind of what they seemed to be doing and kind of what the deal was with Valandol and the spirits. Uh, Maybe a quick sketch of the kind of main control room of Brahmas
Mhm.
with like kind of the stuff floating around with kind of the hashed notes on the side. Is Merc a wizard type thing?
I
Like
remember that.
a
Yeah,
bunch
yeah.
of
That's
question
nice.
marks.
Okay.
So that sort of stuff.
Okay. As you are looking through the book, you notice that normally you don't normally keep notes in this book, and as far as loose pages. And as you are searching through the book, and now that you've been using it a little bit more actively lately, you see a thin, frail piece of paper fall out near the back of the book, as if the natural weight of the pages had kept it there for some time. And as you're thumbing through and you're just giving it that look of a very simple 13 or 14, this paper seems to slide out and you catch it. And now it's kind of hanging out of the book almost like a bookmark at this point. What do you do?
She's she's gonna read it, yeah, or
Okay.
kind of look to see what it is.
When you touch the page and you go to pull this out, this is. You seem like you want to remember, but you're not quite sure. You put this in here. You know you put this in here. Now that's such a Silouan thing that you would do. You wouldn't want, but why would you not want to put this in the book itself? Why wouldn't I just write this down on its own page? Why is this separate? I would like for you to do an Arcana check for me, please.
Sure. Let's see. And then Arcana is that one's intelligence, right?
I believe so. And I think you have some bonuses on it from your skill points as well.
So I think her intelligence is a +3, and I rolled an 11, so it's another 14.
Another 14. Okay. With a 14 looking over it, you seem to remember that this is. What is this? You know what I mean? It's right there on the tip of your tongue. And when you look through it, it seems to be some kind of spell that has been scribed on this paper. And I need to check something on my end to see. Okay, absolutely. Okay. So there is a note written at the top of this. It is in Ignatius's handwriting. Okay? And it defines, and it says to you that this is a message spell scroll. That if you ever find yourself wanting counsel or advice, or you just need a familiar voice, that this will let you be able to cast the message spell if read properly. Now, are you familiar with what that spell is and what it does? I mean, you, Bella, do you know?
The thing that comes to mind is D&D equivalent of text message, which I don't think is correct.
Kind of, yeah. I think you get, was it 25 words? And you can pick someone that you, as long as you have met them and you have interacted with them, you can try to send them a message of 25 words or less. And then they will have a chance to respond to you once you send it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Corey, go ahead.
Just to clarify, if you're talking about the message cantrip spell,
is there a message cantrip and then there's another? What is sending? There's another one that's.
yeah, I think that's the one you're talking about, right?
Okay, yeah, probably so.
That's what
I think,
I think
it's sending because the message is like almost
120
like
foot.
Kaput's thing, isn't it?
Yeah, so send a short message of 25 words or less to a creature which you are familiar with. The creature hears the message in its mind, recognizes you as a sender if it knows you, and can answer the same manner immediately. The spell enables creatures with intelligence of 1 to understand your message. You can send a message across any distance, even to other planes of existence. But the target, if the target is on another plane of existence, you have a 5% chance of it failing. So you roll.
Right. And that's why you have this scroll in this place, because it has a chance of being able to transcend outside of Brahmas to this, but there's a very low chance of failure.
Does it look like it's a one-time use thing, or I would be able to?
With a 14, you're not quite sure.
Damn it!
But you have
'Cause-
saved it, and it is not folded, and it is in the back of this book.
Yeah, because the reason I ask that is, one, it may be very helpful in if we split up to do whatever when we go to the temple next. Also, secondly, if it wasn't, then she would send a message to somebody right now in particular, but I'm not going to take that risk and just sort of set it aside.
Okay. All right. So you've identified it. You remember what it does, but you just don't know
Mm-hmm.
if it has multiple uses or not.
Mm-hmm.
So holding that at bay, keeping it for another rainy day.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going ahead and finding sleep, or are you wanting to leave Brahmas and come out at some point?
I think she's gonna try to knock out first and then come out, because
Okay.
she doesn't know what to expect out there. And the last thing she kind of heard through Brahmas was Darius like, "Let's go!" So I think she's like, "I'm gonna sleep,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
fair.
recover, and then I'm gonna go out," because like she's not sure if it's like immediately rolling into something else.
Okay. So let's go ahead and leave you there for now. Okay. And at some point as we're going through this, if you want to raise your hand, interrupt, and be like, okay, I'll tell you how many hours have went by. Because, sometimes role play goes by and it's hard to keep track of time. I'll let you know how many hours go by as we go through. Okay?
Yeah. So like, is it nighttime right now?
It's getting, it wasn't when you went in and you're not sure what it is on the outside now.
Just me asking as a player.
Oh, getting to be close to that, yes.
Because I imagine we wouldn't actually go anywhere or start moving until the morning. So once it looks like everybody's packing up and starting to do that, that's when she would time the coming out.
Okay. Good deal. Good to know. Okay. Moving on. Colby, you had this conversation with Shikoma. A conversation where you see that proud leader Atladi warrior coming out in her. You remember that from the last episode? Okay. So I'm curious on your thoughts. You would see that Baraxel is coming over and he is aiding the Scion, Karsu, helping her to a bit. She seems to be a bit weakened because she had to hold that connection with this Ozaman shaman for such a long time, right? So he is helping her go inside of the cabin as there is a break in the rain, almost as if it was a sign from the gods that as soon as this test was over, almost within that next minute, these heavy rains have subsided for the first time in like days, where it's a substantial chill. Okay. You see other little wandering bits of conversation and things of that nature happening outside. Is there anyone in particular that Kill Tusk would like to speak with, or are you just headed back into the hunting lodge?
We probably just would be heading back to the lodge to maybe do any last preparations for the attack on the temple.
Okay. As you do that, and you're headed inside, Loki comes up to you and lowers its head, and kind of the feathers around the neck kind of bristle out and then subside and shudder and lay back down again as its eyes close, and it comes into you almost like a dog that wants its head scratched. And it comes into you quite large and nudges you quite a bit. Almost as if to say, it seems to be glad that you've returned. It lost track of you there for a minute, and that's something that you and Loki don't go through very often. What is your reaction to that, sir?
I'll probably probably like rub the top of its like feathers on its back of its head, just let it know that I am all right, and
Okay.
let it know that next time I'm going somewhere, it's gonna be going with me.
Okay. Roll a perception check for me, please. Let me know what you get. What'd you get, sir?
Um, yeah, I know what I rolled. I just got to add a math real quick.
Okay.
26.
26? Okay. With a 26. As you're rubbing on the head of Loki and you're saying these words and you're having this moment, you notice something strange that seems to be lodged in the teeth of the creature. And you know they normally are self-cleaning to a degree, but something abnormal is there, and you see something kind of hanging out over the lip. What are you doing?
I might see if I'm able to get Loki to let me see, like take a better look at it and see what
Do an
it is.
animal handling check, and let me know how you do. And I know you have major bonuses to that because of your kit, if I'm not mistaken. And you know what you got?
If anything, I'm trying to see if I can find that kit.
Well, okay. For instance, animal handling, of course, you already know what that stat is, and you tie that, roll your d20. Just with your ability modifier and your d20, what did you get so far?
Well, since I'm also proficient in wisdom, I end up getting a 16.
Okay. Now, on your skill sheet, was there any extra skill points that you put towards anything that sounds like it would be relevant in this moment? And if not, that's fine. We can move on with a 16. I just want to give you the opportunity. You know what I mean? Because as hard knocks as many games are, I like for you guys to try to sell me a little bit and try to pull your weight around and do things that normally you couldn't do. Always keep that in the back of your mind moving forward. There's always something you can try to accomplish, right?
I don't, I don't see really anything that deals with animals unless it's like
Okay.
like monster. But
Okay.
that's what I'm calling them, not like action.
With the perception check being like a 26, which was ridiculous, and with an animal handling of 16, 15 was plenty good enough to be able to do this, you reach down in there, and there seems to be some kind of medallion or the chain to some kind of broken looking medallion wrapped up in the teeth of the creature. Now, upon that check, do you remember the kind of things that Loki was fighting and what it would have tore into during the last couple fights that you've been into? What kind of stuff did you send Loki after?
Mm-hmm.
You know, there were Vizillion.
Yeah, the Bazillion, and then other than that, I think it was those creatures when I first joined that were attacking the ship.
Correct. Correct. So, when you're grabbing onto this stuff here and you're finally winding down long enough to notice this, and you remember Loki traveled in the river bed behind you guys swimming for quite a bit of that distance as you were coming through that thick overgrowth. Okay? I'm going to have you roll 2d10, and that's going to help me decide what it is you find clammed up in Loki's between his teeth in this moment.
18.
Okay, well, what'd you get on the first D10?
They're both 9s.
Okay, so it'd be 99. That's what I'm having you do. Okay, that's what I'm getting at. Huh?
I thought you meant like the two.
No, you're okay. You're okay.
I rolled the ones that are both like single digits, not the one single digit and the double digit.
You're all right. You're all right. So with a 99, which is fairly good here, okay, in this situation, you have in your possession. Let's go. I have the option of doing this and that. Let's see what makes sense. Because that one I'm not going to give you because that's a little bit ridiculous. Let's go ahead and say for theatrics. Huh. I'm trying to decide if this would work. Just a minute. I'm trying to make sure I'm not doing something stupid.
Well, is the stupid gonna backpack me or you?
Okay. So let's do this. This medallion has with a 99, it could have been a way different situation. This thing has a symbol of a Triton's, the head of a Triton on it. Okay. It is covered in the slime and smells a bit like those merfolk that you were fighting on the top of the ship. Okay. And although the chain is broken, the medallion, although somewhat corroded, almost like ancient treasure, it has barnacles and things like that encrusted on the side of it, seems to, as you rub it with your finger for just a moment, seems to be still made of pretty decent material underneath. It's almost like a polished shell like material, like a seashell or something like that, but it has a metallic outer ring that kind of holds it together. You see that three-spired symbol of the Triton on it. Looks like it could definitely be worth something. There's something more to it. Do you have the ability to identify it? I don't know if you do or not.
You know a skill that allows me to do that?
Well, if you don't know, then you don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Because I have ideas.
Yeah, I don't really know.
Okay. Well, that's what you find.
Okay.
All right. Moving forward, Darius. As you see Kiltusk scraping off the barnacles on some kind of medallion that he has unwedged from between Loki's teeth, you would see Valdera and Bastille having a conversation. It sounds like they're having whispered words about the possibilities of tomorrow, what it's going to entail. And Valdera starts talking about getting supplies back to the ship, things that we're finding here. And you hear her say things like, way more than we planned on. You know, she's talking about how are we going to get something into this dense area and get this stuff back. You know, they're having thoughts about it after she's done talking with you. And you would have seen Braxel guiding the Scion in her frail young condition. As you are heading towards the lodge, is there anything you would like to do before you head inside? Because there's multiple scenes going on all over the place, and it can also be as simple as let's just go inside. I just want to give everyone an opportunity, you know.
Yeah, I think like Darius would have already like kind of been inside it, like, right? Because that was his goal. Like last was.
Well, let's do that then. Let's say you're really focused, and when you go inside, the axe beak picks up with your haste as far as getting inside the door. Mm-hmm. Because there's no one else really around in this moment, I don't think. everyone was outside. As it sits up for just a minute, and you can see its one eye is still closed, and the one big eye of the axe beak is open as it turns over and looks at you, and then kind of coos and rustles itself and lays back down, obviously still hurting pretty bad. And you would hear muttered words coming from outside. You are, I think, for all intents and purposes, alone inside the hunting lodge here for just a moment. The fire's still going and has actually picked up quite a bit since everyone went outside to deal with this stuff. And some of Valder's remains, that large bone monster call, still laid out on the central table where people were talking about things where Rusty was laying. Is there anywhere particular in here you'd like to go?
So, did I already investigate this stuff on the table? I feel like I did.
Well, it's weird because I keep coming back to when you were investigating stuff in the airship, right? Because that was epic. I think you saw some things going on and you were part of the conversation. And you found out some information about the area. But other people were around. You didn't have a chance to grab shit and look at it yourself. You jumped into the conversation.
Yeah, because here, I'll just lay out the intentions. Of
cool.
Darius, and you can determine kind of what might happen or not. So Darius's intentions right this moment is thinking of the next step, right? So we are currently in the point of we have the monkey men on our side. Now what next? So whatever, like if he can investigate those things or even investigate the room to get a better understanding of these people, so that way he can be able to go, this is why we need to push on. That's kind of what he would be doing right now.
Okay. As you're rummaging around and looking on that table, you do remember them talking about the water temple of Yeota. And then their plans for going into that only a scion has the ability to unlock that ancient place. Danny had overheard from people talking around the table, there's an ancient being that dwells inside of something that looks a lot like Brahmas, that is actually inside of that water temple, and that a lot of the knowledge that came and was able to help them construct this aqueduct, this ancient blessing, really, to keep the water low and make this broken continent habitable again, comes from that being and communications with it inside of this temple. If they are going to go inside of something like that, this is going to be a very old school, could be traps in there, Corey. This could be, all the normal thoughts you would have. Would you be looking on the table to see if there's something that talks? Well, yeah. If you're looking forward, you might be looking for things that talk specifically about that temple or where it's at.
Yeah, because so Darius would at least at a minimum assume that these people have an idea of where it's at,
mm-hmm.
and maybe what to expect. But if he can get a better understanding of how to probe them, because they seem like they're not really open necessarily of talking about their culture background so much. So he needs to figure out how to probe to get those answers out, to be able to say, okay, that's what we need to do. This is where we need to go. That's how we need to do it.
Okay. Roll an insight check. And +1 for the burp. Seriously, whatever you roll, add +1 to it for the belch. That's the least I could do.
All right, cool. So that would be a 16.
That's +1, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So the belch puts you well over 15. As you look at the papers laying about the table, there's nothing there that's answering these questions that you have. You're like, why am I looking on this paper? I just need to think about what I've seen.
Oh, wait, you said insight, not investigation?
Uh-huh.
Oh, shit. I don't know. I keep mixing those. My insight's a 10, which would make that 24. No, shit. God, I can't do math right now. Sorry. It'd be 6 more, which would be
10 plus 6 is 16.
yeah. And well, I rolled an 11 plus 10,
21.
22. 22.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's much better situation. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll drive this home a little bit more for you. It's as you're going through and you're looking at materialistically and you're thinking about the urgency. Every night that goes by, she's out there. And who knows for how long she's been out there, how many years you've truly been gone. We know it's been longer than you initially thought from some of the things you found in the airship. And as you're looking through these papers, it's like this temple of Yoda. I'm hoping they know, but what if I need to know? What if they fail and I need to get back to the airship? But do I even know how I got here? Can I traverse the rivers back? And after looking through the table, you have this insight. You're like, what I'm looking for to be able to probe them, to get from them, isn't on this table. I just need to use my observation. I need to use my cleverness here. What have I seen so far? And you start kind of diagnosing, having a diagnosis of the last events. Okay, you saw that there was this ape that seemed to be corrupted somehow by dark gravity like energy, like it had these big horns on its head, right? That's got to be something. There's something to that. No one's talking about it. That's one thing. Okay? The second thing, after just trying to figure out what do I need to know here to make this move faster forward. Okay? Everyone talks about this temple down in here. They spoke about the fact that the Scion has to be guided through. But no one even knows if this particular young girl has even been in this place before. Right? So we need to know, is there a map or can someone give us a description of what it looks like inside of there? That's another point. Okay? So 15 would have got you that. 20 would have got you that. Since you have over 20, I'll give you one more thing. Okay? After thinking about this for a little bit, let's see, what would be one more nice little tidbit of things that no one else has noticed quite yet? Okay. What is the weakness of these Vizillion? Do they have a weakness, something that can help people hold them at bay? To keep them, that they fear. You know what I mean? What have we seen? We saw them controlling elements. We saw them bring down lightning. We saw them spray acid. We know they're aquatic. When you were on top of that one and you were taking the head of it, and it pulsed out that dark blood, and you realize these are very reptilian-like creatures, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In that moment, with that roll, you can't help but wonder, what is it that cold-blooded animals hate? What fucks with them? And it's cold. Cold slows snakes down. You can think about many times where you've kicked over rocks and saw animals in the wintertime that were slumbering and cold and makes things worse. And this is such a hot, sticky fucking place. With the humidity and the rain like that. Maybe that's something you need to bring up with some of these people and explore that route. So, in having those thoughts when you come into this place, those are the three main things on your mind currently. Okay? Is there anything else you would like to do in here before I move on to the next person?
No, I'd say he'd be spending quite a bit of time like that. So whenever anyone goes in, like he'd be in the middle of doing that. That kind of like.
Okay. The first people that you would see walk in would be Baraxel with the young Scion, Karsu with her arm around, and her eyes are not illuminated. He has his headdress still off with the scarred burns up and down the back and the neck and the back there. It's taken the hair off. Like I said, he kind of has a mohawk of hair and the blue and black paint on his face. As he guides her back in, he just kind of gives you a look at the desk and he kind of looks at you and he sees you putting a puzzle together, practically. Without really so much as giving you a nod, just acknowledging that you're there, he goes across and he pulls in a mound of furs for Karsu to sit by the fire and warm herself. And as she's sitting there, he goes over to some of the shelves and pulls off several dusty bottles that he was drinking out of earlier and begins to prepare her a drink. And he's mixing things into it, almost like he's doing chemist-like stuff. You know, I can only imagine that he has some kind of dust that he's pulling out of a certain onyx receptacle, and he's stirring in stuff to give her some kind of pre-workout. Who the hell knows? It's an interesting concoction, and he's mixing that together for her. So that's one person you could speak to in this moment, or her over by the fire. The next one to come in would be Kiltusk. Correct? Because we were talking about the order of events. Kiltusk, when you leave from the outside, you and Shikoma would be side by side. Okay, with you leading the way. Where would Kiltusk like to go inside of this place once you get in here, Kiltusk?
Well, did you say that when the Alzheimer came here, I didn't finish all of my ruin? Exactly.
Correct. You would still have some paints left out over by the fireplace beside where Karsu is now sitting. That would be something you may finish.
Okay, yeah, then I'll go to the fireplace to finish my ruins.
Okay. So, Darius, there's another person. Shortly after... Go ahead.
I would say that, like, when, like, I'm over at the table kind of sifting through stuff, and I definitely agree with the notion of the puzzle pieces. Like, I'm kind of taking stuff and I'm turning it and I'm spinning it. It's very obvious I'm deep in thought.
Mm-hmm.
And as Kiltusk comes in, you know, I probably would have been panning from Braxel and then see him come in. And I would like put a finger up, kind of like gonna say something. And I would just kind of give like a wave, like to come over, see if he comes over.
Okay, Kiltusk, what's your response to that?
I think Kiltusk would go over there.
Okay. You guys go ahead and have at this, and if Colby, if you have questions about what you may or may not know, you can ask me, and I'll describe it to you in character. And you guys just go ahead and have your moment there. Jeremy, you'll be next in just a second, okay?
No, Jeremy, no.
No, Jeremy.
So I would say, like, as you come over, like I would kind of spin a few of the items towards you. I know that we don't know each other very well, but we've fought a few times together, and I can see that you have a sort of strategy, a tactician methodology of sorts. So I'm not sure what kind of training that you and your people go through, but it is immaculate, and you've saved my hide quite a few times. I'm concerned at the next steps we have in place. I don't know. You might be able to assist with understanding this place we're supposed to be going to get this device. It's been said that only, and I kind of like look over towards the Scion, only she could lead us there. But she seems a little immature in her powers. And if we are to have someone leading us who can barely understand what they are capable of, we would just be leading ourselves to devastation. Do you agree?
Does Kiltusk know if like there's any spirits that might guide the Scion?
They have talked about it. And you and I have had conversations about this, right? Outside of game?
I think so, yeah.
Use it. Absolutely. There are the spirits of, it's a Christmas thing, the spirits of Scion's past. There are places and ways for them to be interacted with inside of this place. You just have to have people to protect her, to give her the chance to channel with them, much like the Ozuman outside the shaman that's there. So you do know that, and if you want to get a little bit creative here, Colby, go ahead and you're more than welcome to ask me whatever you'd like, okay?
Okay. Yeah, and then Kiltusk would respond to Darius saying, as far as I have heard, there are spirits in that temple that can help out, that can help her out of better understanding her powers, what she's capable of. So if we're able to take back that temple, it it will help her a lot more. It will help us, but also help her majorly at the same time.
That does ease my thoughts a little. What about, when's the last time any of your people have been to the temple? It sounds like it's an ancient ruin at this point that you guys haven't seen in quite some time. Is there a map? Has someone, one of your people, maybe Shakoma, has been through there and can guide us? Otherwise, ancient ruins that have been taken over by your enemies are bound to be plentiful of traps.
Do I know the last time anybody's been in there?
Say it again, please.
I said, do I know when the last time of anybody being in there?
Yes. There were many trips to that during the reconstruction. When you were younger, there were different folks. The Scion wasn't born yet. You were just a little bit older than her. But yes, definitely. And when you think about that for a moment, you're reminded of a sharp thing. You remember the long, painful cries at night that Karsu let out when you guys had escaped one of many different attacks against your people? Not just led by the Vasilian, but by other creatures in here, and also led by some of these other not so favorable people. And when it found out that her mother was gone, and that they were afraid that their connection to the great spirit of the earth spirit Baka was gone forever, and they didn't know how they'd get it back. And you remember her screaming like that. And something that's interesting is Scions don't show all the emotion in the world. They're kind of trained not to, right? But on that particular night, when they had a ceremony mourning people that an endless number of people that passed away, that Karsu's mom was one of them that they knew for sure had. And when she let out that scream, that echoes in your mind in that moment, remembering that. Does that answer your question?
Well, Darius also asked if anybody in in the group has also been in that temple before and might help lead us.
You don't believe she's ever been in that temple, no. But you know that Shakoma has possibly been to it. You don't know if she's ever guided someone before. And there is the chance that Baraxel, you believe, aided in Karsu's mother for a while. That him being the guardian of Karsu has been passed down. That he has possibly guided a Scion through this place before. You would know that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Brian, for clearing that up.
Hey, that's what the DM's here for, right, buddy?
Yep. Okay, so then Kiltusk would respond saying, I have seen it before when I was a young boy, during which we were rebuilding our land. And I also know that Shakoma has been near the temple, but I'm not for sure if she's been inside. Roxel might be a better option for a guide, as she has been a guardian for as long as I can remember to Shyos.
At
So I
that
guess-
moment, I do want to say that Valdera and Bastille come in, and they make their way over to the opposite side, and they find a seat, and they pull up a side table, and they start talking about the airship, and they're discussing how they're going to do transport. She's laying out some teeth and some different pieces of things and a piece of a displacer's fur, and they're talking about all the possibilities of things, and they're sitting over to the side. Now you can continue.
So it sounds to me like once everyone gets here and we start to discuss our next steps, we have some ideas, but I feel as if there's gaps missing that would be beneficial for us before deciding who's going to fight back the forces of the Vasilian and who's going to dive deeper into that archive or not archive, ruin, if you will.
How whispered are you being in this conversation? Are you being open to a degree, or are you just trying to keep it between the two of you in the center?
No, he's not being secret.
Okay. In that moment, you hear a little bit of a chair scoot. And it's Bastille. And he's standing up and he's looking across at you, and he's kind of half grinning and he's nodding his head a little bit. He goes, "Nice to see you're actually taking interest in this stuff. For now, our fates seem to be interlocked, although for how long I couldn't tell you." He says, "There are a lot of questions, aren't there? A lot of things that need to be answered." You have a response to that? He's looking right at you, Darius.
Yeah, I was just giving you a second.
Okay.
I am more than grateful for being saved by your crew, but I agree our paths are intermingled for some time, and while I'd like to say fast tracking that would be my only goal, I know that we can only move as fast as the group can move. But I will not put myself in any more danger than I must, even if for some booty, some goods of sorts. So it would be in our best interest, once everyone is here, to make a plan accordingly, and execute that plan.
Bastille raises his eyebrow and he's kind of nodding. And he's kind of smiling and looking at you. He says, "Agreed." And he stares over at Shakoma. You can see Shakoma feels the eyes upon her. And she looks over her shoulder. Shakoma proudly stands up. She walks over to the central table and gives Valdera a nod. "I'll need to use this space. There are things we need to discuss." When she says that, Valdera stands up, and her and Bastille work on cleaning off all the different goods of Valdera's off of that table and things like that, and making a working space. Before we get into this, outside, Brahmas, you're outside still, okay? And just for, what is it you're exactly doing out there at this moment? If you don't really have a plan and you need to throw some things at you, I've got things. But is there anything particularly you are wanting to do, either inside of Brahmas or outside, before I start laying down the tracks?
No, as of right now, he doesn't really have a whole lot of anything planned.
Okay. So you would see that this large, four-armed Ozoman, shaman, is the only one that remains. And there is this, where this phantasmal, like, campfire, this bonfire, was used as like a channeling device. This was used to about this seance that went on, interlocking where they're currently at with where we're currently at. As it has went away, it has left a burned and charred rune on the earth itself. This Ozaman, his posture isn't as great as some of the soldiers, and his time of being mighty is long since gone. He has a large staff, as we discussed earlier, that's made out of the leg bone of some kind of large dinosaur of some type. And he uses his two lower arms to walk as if he's walking on all fours a lot of times. Every once in a while, as he's kind of hobbling around, you'll see him use a staff with one of his upper arms. You see one of those large black fists with the white hair kind of come down, and it's very strange the way he moves. Sometimes the arms will even take the weight off of his legs, carrying him around like an ape-like spider in moments where you can see he's somewhat frail. The large cloak and shaggy remnants of different creatures lays heavily on top of his shoulders as the cloak sops and drags in the mud, and he is taking out the markings that were left on the ground as he utters beast-like seance words under his breath. He is out there getting rid of this mark first priority. Okay? And it seems like he's doing it alone, which is fine. But I just wanted to give you that. You and him seem to be the only ones that are left out here currently. Other than Rowdy of the Dire Boar, which is just kind of over in the distance, drinking out of a large pond of water, and will stop lapping up every once in a while and just kind of looks up at you guys and snorts a little bit, then gets back to it. You are more than welcome to leave it. You can go in or you can look for more. Completely your call, sir.
Does the Ozaman look like he's just kind of doing his own thing in his own world?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, like it's kind of just like I described. I mean, I'm not trying to be a dead horse or anything, but he does fumble to a degree, just because of his age, but he is doing a job. It seems as if he is taking care of something that needs to be done.
He said basically he's just wiping away the marks.
Yeah, well, he's going through and he's taking his staff and he's scratching things out, and it's quite a big area there. It was like a 20-foot something circle, and because of that, he's only about halfway done when the rain breaks and stuff, and he takes a moment and he looks up at the sky and he rubs some of that wet hair off the side of him, and he's taking it and he's looking at his hands, and he gets back to work on it. It'll probably take him a little bit longer to do this. It's quite a bit of stuff to remove.
I think he would approach, just hands up.
Okay. As you do, he gives notice to you and stops for a minute and looks up at you and
Would you like some assistance?
he takes and he stuffs up a little bit more with one of his large hands, and he walks up and he comes up to you. And it's funny, when he's in that crouched, he's quite short, he's like 5.5, 6 foot. But when he walks up to you and you hear his bones crack and he stands up, he could damn near look Brahmas in the eyes when he stands fully erect. He just doesn't do it very often. And as he does, he looks everywhere else on you except for your visor. And he's looking, he's touching, and he's moving some of the mud away. And when he does, you see on his large black fingers something very familiar that he pulls off of Brahmas. And this is peculiar for several different reasons. And he holds it up to his nose for a minute. And he smells. And when he does, you see a little bit of illumination. There's something arcane going on here. And as he does this, he goes out and you see that large black mouth kind of part, and he tastes the finger a little bit and he spits. And he looks at you and he says to you, the same corruption covers you that affects my people. And he holds it up to where your face would be, and you can see a amount of soot and things that is on his finger. It's heavy. Seems to be like soot that would be thick on the inside of a chimney. And he seems to have pried this from in between little bits and pieces of you, and he holds it up around your head as if he wants you to smell and see if it's you notice it too.
Which obviously I don't think I could smell it, but does it?
Right, you might want to tell him that, but he has no idea.
But looking at it, does it strike anything?
Roll a Arcana check or a nature check, or you tell me what you think you should do.
We'll try Arcana just
Okay.
because it's something of arcane nature. An 18.
An 18. It's all about the tone in which you say it. You clever dog. Okay, so with an 18, this seems to be, and you can't quite understand why it would be this way, but this seems to be some kind of soot and residue that's not so dissimilar from what Silowin put in her bottle, her jar. Some brimstone, like demonic like residue from like that area, that soot, that heavy ash that was in the air. The thing that's strange about it is that Merc was there, not Brahmas. And in that moment with an 18, you're seeing all these things affect you all this time, Merc. You know that you've grown the beard, that there are memories of you that are shared in this place. But he just came up and he's pulling off resin as if Brahmas himself has been in there. Is this angelic construct a two-way street? Does it go through and do things externally, depending on what the internal struggle is? This is a very interesting question. And he has noticed this, and you've never taken the time to examine much of his outsides before. You've used him for utility. You've been very busy with him. But since you've started having these connections, and since this beard started growing, and since you've seen other instances of your general, images of your wife and you when you were children when you first met, you've not really thought about the exterior, nor have you had Ignatius work on you for some time. It would seem that part of the things that you're going through are coming back with promise. What are you doing?
Tell me more about the corruption that plagues your people.
Okay. In that moment, he takes and he just kind of wipes that hand inside of a pouch that he has on his side as if he doesn't want to waste it. As large as these hands are, it's funny how all four of them will move in different ways all at the same time. It makes you think, for as primitive and shaman-like, decently spoken creature this is, there's a lot going on inside this old fella. You know what I mean? And as he's wiping that soot on the inside of a pouch with two hands, as the other two grab onto that large staff as large black fingers encompass it, he looks up to you with a squinted eye. He says, a year ago. Not much more than that. Our home, the well of sorrow. We went deeper, trying to last out this storm that never rests. Many of our soldiers found themselves angered, enraged, for no reason. He goes, and then the changes started happening. And he looks up and he touches your head. And he says, cruel spikes of dark rock, onyx, coal, seem to be alive and erupting from our warriors as if volcanoes from the island themselves. And with it comes the dark power. The deeper we go, the safer we try to become, the more infused we are with the powers of the dark rock. Do you have anything to say?
Heavy. No,
That's a lot.
that's interesting. I don't really know. I don't think Merc would have a lot to say about that. It's definitely something he'd be wanting to try to reach out to Valendal about.
Well, you know, my job as a DM is to give you multiple options, Jeremy.
I think he'd look at the Osman. In time, I would like to come and look. See if I can see what's going on. If you would have me.
He gives you a long look up and down and kind of squints at you again. Roll a persuasion check.
$21.
19. He thinks long and hard about it. You get the feeling that if you didn't look like a deity, there's no way this shit would go down. He's thinking long and hard about it. And as he does, he reaches down into another satchel on his side. And as he does, he pulls out what looks like a piece of some kind of orange clay. Okay? And he says, so you come back clean. And he begins to draw something on the outside of you if you'll let him. Do you?
Yeah, he won't object.
Okay. He's drawing something on you that is rune-like looking, and he's drawing it very primitively, but he's doing it with this orange-like clay from the earth. It seems to, break apart as he turns it and uses the mast of it to try to complete this sigil that he's drawing upon the outside of you in this thick clay, greasy-like marking. Roll a Arcana check, please, to see if you identify anything from this.
13.
This is a protection from good and evil sigil. Okay? As a paladin, you're familiar with it. You've seen Kiltusk working in paints and drawing things on himself at one point in time. With a 13, you're not quite sure how he works them or activates them, but he is giving you this. You don't know if it's active now, if it's something you can activate later. You're not quite sure, but it is there and it is in place. And that's what this old fella's doing. Okay? As he finishes and crumbles up the last bit of this orange, greasy-like clay between his fingers and throws it down and wipes it across his cloak like out on his side, and he looks at it and blows on it a little bit and looks at it again, and he puts a hand on it and just kind of touches it as if to say, stay put. You know what I mean? He's talking kind of to the rune, hoping that it lasts. You're not sure how long that would stay on there in a heavy rain or not. But with the heavy, you know how it is if you rub clay on the side of a car or something. It's fairly durable, sir, you know. So with that, he pulls on your shoulder as he stomps out a little bit more, and he starts marking out more of that rune on the ground. He's almost signaling as if he could use some help with it. Okay.
Does it seem like the rain has stopped? It's not beating down on us anymore.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. In that sense, he will start helping him snuff out that sigil on the ground.
Okay, just for the hell of it, give me an athletics check, please.
It's a 9.
Okay, takes you quite a while. We're going to go through a little bit more inside, and then I'll let you know when you two are done and able to join the rest of the group. Okay, so as you're doing that, I want an NPC what Celine is doing at the moment, because I think that's the only person we've really left out so far. Okay, unless is there anybody else? I think that's everybody. I think Celine is the last one. Okay, so we got Celine and Rursi, right? Rursi was one of the last ones there because she was guiding people in. Once Rursi is done guiding some of the last people from that side of the fire to our side, she would be pretty weak as well. And I could see Celine continuing to cater to her in that moment. Now, their conversations, I'll keep them somewhat private and whispered between the two. But for everybody that's inside, those would be the next two people that would come in. Would be Celine walking alongside of Rursi, the cleric, and seeing that now the table is being cleared off in a preparation of some kind of seminar that's getting ready to go down. They find their way over to a bench on the side and pull out and make another table, and make a makeshift countertop out of some barrels and a bench and things like that, and they put themselves up in one of the corners. Okay, as Rursi would begin preparing herbs, and would have one of those bowls that has a grinder made out of granite, and would begin to grind up some things. And the two seem to be discussing spell components and what she is preparing for the next day. Okay, so if anyone's interested in Rursi or Celine doing that whole kind of thing, they're over there in one of the corners of the room as well. So this is almost like a job fair. Now, where we have Rursi and her in this corner. You have Baraxel by the Scion over here. We have Valdera and Bastille, which are now cleaning off the table. They're going to be on their own side doing things, talking about some of the components. You're going to have Shakoma and Killtusk are roughly going to be in the middle, and Shakoma's going to start explaining some things. All kinds of neat little interacting spots. You've got an Axebeak over there that's hurt as hell in the corner. If someone wants to go over and see how that's going, it's whatever. And like I say, you two would be some of the last ones to come in after you get the mark completely done and rubbed out, okay? Before I move, I got a message here real quick, just a minute. Just a second here. I'm getting messages from people. It's getting crazy. This would be a Facebook message. I've got to watch this stuff go on. Just one moment. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, let's do this. What did you go inside him and catch something that you cannot? All right, moving forward. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and get into the seminar. Does anybody else have anything they want to interact with in this room before we get started with tonight's events? We're all pretty much in here. Silowin's doing her thing, which you're kind of dead to the world at the moment. You're deep sleep doing your thing. You've got your mental alarm clock timer. It's going to go off at a certain point. You've marked that out, and you and this ancient old Ozaman shaman are the last ones to walk into the room. Shikoma seems to have made plenty of room in the middle table. Last chance before she gets started talking. Does anybody have anything they want to bring up before I get into this? We're good? Okay. So, in that moment, Shikoma turns and she faces Brahmas. Okay? And she says, I've been waiting for a sign for so many days now. I've seen the strength of some of our people and the resolve remain. And she gives you a look, Kiltusk. And I've seen some of us push ourselves beyond our wildest limits. And she looks down at Karsu, which is still in a bad place after being connected to the shaman for so long. Okay. She would continue in saying, she goes, but if your existence coming here from a flying ship and being the image of Baka himself isn't a sign that things are about to change for the better, I have never seen one. And she comes over and she gives you a nod from up close, Brahmas. And she looks at the group, looks over at Bastille and Valdera. And she goes, the Vizillion will fear you, as well they should. And they will once again remember what it is like to fear that laddie. She turns around and she hammers her fist down on the table. She goes, the pounding of the drums. She takes her spear and she waves it around the room like a Bruce Campbell with his boomstick. And she goes, the sharpness of our spears. And she pounds the spear against her chest, like that. And she looks at the Ozamen. And she says, the courage in our hearts. We'll make them remember. We'll awaken the beacon. Now we must decide who fights in which part of this battle. She looks over to Baraxel and yields the floor to him. As she takes a step back, Baraxel stands up. He looks down at that stone slab and he rubs his hand on it, right? And he looks back and he takes his hand and he rubs down that nasty burnt skin that he has all around the back of his head and all around the side of his neck. And he says, I have a favor to repay. A Vizillion did this to me. I thought I was burning alive. And then a young scion came to my aid. And just by her hand the pain went away. Some say you're not ready. But I say you are. As your mother before you, I am ready to guide you into the water temple of Yota. Although I feel that My place would be best served on the outside walls fighting. There will be more of them than you have ever seen. I do not know how their numbers have grown so quickly, or if they were always just hiding, like the cowards they are. Slams his hand down the concrete. The stone, sorry, there was no concrete. It was stone. And says, he looks over at Kill Tusk. And he says, it's time we all stepped up. Took ownership of our place among the last of the Atlati warriors. I would ask that you lead the charge outside. In my absence. And he's looking at you to see if you accept this, Kill Tusk. You are muted. Oh, there you go. Good job.
Kotos would say, like, look at the air, Fraxel with like affirmation,
Mm-hmm.
and shake his head and like, I will.
Okay. He looks across the room. He goes, although your arrival is still a mystery to me, if you are truly here to take down the Quetzalcoatl, then our journeys unite as one. He takes his hands, he holds them together like this. And he goes, who will join us inside the temple? And who will stand outside and give us the time we need to once again fall into Baccha's grace? And he takes a step back. Before everyone gets started, Bastille speaks up automatically. Bastille pops up. And he walks over. And he looks at the Scion. And he pulls his hood completely back, showing the pointed ears. And the black hair that's long. He normally doesn't do this. And he looks across. And he says, he goes, sometimes it's hard for me to ignore the things that are right in front of my face. He says, and I am on a path. And I believe it will lead me down inside that temple with you all. It may seem unlikely, but I understand a bit of this language. I'm also not too shabby with a puzzle. And he goes, and I'll also be there to protect you. He says, I would like to offer my services to be by the Scion as we go down into the temple, if you'll have me. Baraxel turns and looks to the Scion as she is just blind-eyed looking up, and without saying a word, she just gives a nod, indicating that she does. Okay? Does anyone else speak up in this moment? There seems to be a bit of a pause and a bit of a silence to see if anyone else has a choice they would like to make in this.
Quick question.
Absolutely, go ahead.
When Homegirl was kind of saying that am I hearing this correctly? That Shakoma, that her daughter is the Scion? Did I hear that correctly?
No.
Or it's a cleric?
The Scion's mom was the last one that went inside and was able to work as a guide and communicate with the spirits inside of that temple. And
okay.
she was one of them that was killed.
Oh, that's okay. That's where I meant. I was like, that's what I thought you said earlier. Then I was like, wait a minute.
Nope.
Okay. So, but it was Shakoma who was saying like, yo, I knew your mom could do it. I know you can do it.
Yeah.
Can I insight that?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Basically, the intention here, that's a 22, a 20. Sorry, it's a soft 20.
It's all good.
Is I'm just trying to get a. Darius is trying to get understanding. Is she talking out of her ass to try and hype up like a leader would do? Like, is she trying to? Because he's not gonna throw her under the bus in front of people because she's trying to lead. But
I get it. Okay, so that's what you're looking for, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And you rolled a 20.
Soft 20, yeah.
Okay. It's a fine line, Corey. You want to believe her. And when you look for the signs, and you're listening to the words, and you're imagining what you would want to hear if you were them, and she's saying it, it seems a little bit too good to be true, right? But for the most of that you search, and you look into her, and you look for the small shudder of an eye, you look for a weird breath, a nervous breath afterwards. You're looking for some kind of tell. From everything you can discern, she speaks truthfully, but there's still a nervousness she's trying to mask with her own words beneath the surface. But the things that she's saying, she believes them to be true.
Right. So she believes that she's saying the truth, but she still hasn't. She's on edge, but it doesn't seem to be based on what she's saying. It's just in general, which makes sense.
Yep.
Yep. So, yeah, Darius is gonna wait till everyone else decides.
Okay. Brahmas, do you have anything? Merc, do you have anything to say in this moment?
Yeah, Merkel or Brahmas will step forward. I have no reason to not see this through. I came here for a very specific reason. I will go inside as well.
You hear a sigh of relief from Bastille. As he's looking over and he's grinning, he's nodding his head. He's going, I was hoping you would say that. There's a lot of things that I think you and I need to discover in there. A lot of things. Okay? With that, Valdera stands up. She goes, well, if you boys are going to have all your fun, I suppose someone needs to be out there cracking fucking skulls. Kill Tusk, don't let me leave you behind on this. You ready? And she's looking at you like she's wanting to join your side of things. What are you saying?
Kotas would reply to her saying, I'll be glad to have you on my side of this fight.
She goes, just make sure you're aiming away from me when we're doing this. That's all I ask. I'm not so armored in the back as I am in the front. You understand what I'm saying? She kind of winks at you and smiles to relieve a little bit of stress in the moment. It's funny to see how overly confident she is in this moment, but it is nice. It almost peps you up a bit. Okay? With that, Celine adds in, and she goes, I would like to offer something a little different than we have mentioned here so far. She looks at Rossi. She goes, obviously, people will be injured. None of us are impervious to the many threats of this land. She goes, might I offer my services to the outside and the inside? She goes, I don't understand why a door can't be opened more than once, especially if someone as uniquely skilled as Bastille, and she's being overly flattering and sarcastic at the same time, would be inside showing these people the path with the Scion with him. I can see all manner of people that will need to be healed in this venture. She goes, and I would like to accommodate that. When she says that, she takes the mask off, the raven mask. And as she holds it down to the side, you see her shift and change into a Vasilian. Now, as she does this, you would see the Ozaman shaman kind of tense up. And out of this Vasilian female's voice comes Celine. She goes, "It's amazing how trusting people can be of their eyes, especially when there's fighting and battle all around them. And I have a unique gift that will make me especially useful." And as that happens, you see an extra pair of arms sprout out from the side as all of a sudden she seems to be covered with a thick white fur and goes down on all fours. And you see a female, large-built Ozaman look up and says in that same voice, "For this particular occasion, Celine is going to be the chaos in this. She is letting everyone here know that she can look like a Vasilian, she can look like an Ozaman, and she can really throw some monkey wrenches in this shit, which is going to be very, very fun." Okay. With that, she takes on Celine's form once more and puts the raven mask back on her face. And she goes, "Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go outside and attend to Isadora. Do let me know if anything changes." And she smiles and she walks past Brahmas and looks and winks into your visor, letting you know with a sign of confidence. As she goes outside, when the door opens up and the sun is peeking through the clouds, finally you can see Isadora has been out there waiting and perches on her shoulder as she shuts the door softly behind her. Okay? Now, a little bit more silence. Darius, do you have something to say in this moment?
So, clarify for me.
Yeah.
Out of character. What groups are splitting so far? Because I had to take a call.
I know you did. It's all good. It's all good. Because life happens, that's perfectly fine. It was not an insult. It was all good. What we have now is that Kill Tusk has been asked by Baroxel to step up and be someone that guards the outside of the Water Temple of Yoda and fights back the Vasilian forces so people can do their work on the inside. Braxel felt kind of bad about this because he would want to be out there getting into it and kicking the shit out of these things too, but he has to be there to protect the Scion as he was to protect the Scion's mother. So in that, Kill Tusk took that and was like, absolutely. So you got Kill Tusk is going to be on the outside so far, leading the charge. Baraxel and Karsu, the Scion, are going to be inside so far. As it moved around, Danny, or Bastille, has said that he is very familiar with the ancient writings and things that could possibly be inside this place. He's in the path of Celestial Warlock now, and him and Brahmas have had many things where they have a unique understanding of this kind of stuff. And he's also says he's good with a puzzle and unlocking a door every once in a while, and he would like to be somebody that's in the inside. Okay. Brahmas has said he would like to go inside as well, which Bastille was really happy about that because we don't, in the last conversation, we found out that there's shit that looks just like Brahmas inside this place. And we're going to go find out what the fuck that is and how interesting that might be. Valdera stepped up and said that she would want to be somebody on the outside. And she tells Kill Tusk, like, you better get your game face on because I'm coming up there with you and we're going to kick some ass. Are you ready? Right? Which I'm looking forward to because I'm going to play that out. Because I have Valdera, she's my old character, so I'm going to have some fun with that. It's going to be great. That's where we're currently at, and then what you just heard went down. That's where we're at now.
So we've got, player-wise, we've got 2 players inside, 1 player outside.
Well,
and we don't
Valdera,
know what
Kill Tusk, or on the outside.
I'm thinking just from a an out of character standpoint. Like, so when we're doing this, who's going to be getting what light? Because I don't want to have like one person sitting outside by themselves and they can't like role play except for just their fight scene versus everybody else on the inside. Because Darius could do either.
Mhm.
I think that currently, as it stands, I think that it sounds like the skill set Darius could provide inside is covered, which is good. So I
Okay.
think that so yes, so Darius will kind of walk over towards like Valdera and Kiltusk. I think I'm going to stick on the outside with you all, and he'll turn towards like Bastille. I too can read ancient writings, but if you can do that, I can save my aptitude to be able to utilize it during the fight, which would be handy.
Bastille nods and looks at you and says, "We'll all need inspiration at some point before this is over, I'm sure." And he kind of grins and speaks to you in that way. He knows that you have the ability to do things other than hack and slash, and he's speaking to that about you.
My only concern is the longer I am in the midst of bloodshed, the less capable I am of holding back what is inside. So
Valdera speaks up with that. You continue through? Because of that moment, Valdera would speak up.
Well, I mean, if she cuts him off, he'll stop. But
Well, that's what would happen then. So, almost in a rude way, she would cut him off. She goes, so maybe you're our surprise. And she goes, with you in the middle there, just within arm's reach of whatever you need to be. If you go down that path, I'll make sure to watch your back. And my own. If it comes to that. She goes, I think they need to be more worried about you than you need to be worried about yourself. Would you agree?
all I ask is if I can control myself enough to run away, do not come after me. I will calm down and come back. Just know that if I am to be taken over, I will do my best to continue the fight until I can no longer do so. But I will not put anyone in danger.
Bastille stands up there beside Valdera and comes up to you in this scene in the middle of the room, and he nods and he says, I believe you. He goes, and who's to say that Celine doesn't help you out if you get into a situation where you lose control of it? He goes, he looks to the door and says, she'll be out there. None of us will really know who she is or where she's at. Plus, we got to think. And he looks at the shaman. And he says, how many of your people are going to be joining in this fight? As he stands up, pushes himself up those multiple arms, he says, when the time comes, there'll be more of us than they'll know what to do with. I'm trying to remember how he would say this. He would say, we have been waiting for this for a long time. We will be ready. And that's all he would say. So the other awesome thing is we're going to have a multitude of Ozaman warriors. And you know, it's funny, Brahmas, when he says that, you don't really know how many of them are corrupted in this way. And could they be ticking time bombs, maybe possibly having some of that inner darkness like Darius has, where they'll lose control of something too? These are all interesting questions that you'd be thinking of, Merc, as this is going on, right?
Well, he doesn't have to question it because literally I was just about to ask, dude.
Yeah, please do. Please do. Go ahead. So get into it, because you weren't outside. You don't know about any of this. Yeah, go ahead.
No. Because basically, correct me if I'm wrong. So they're saying that the Ozumen are going to be outside with us, right?
They're going to help lead the charge, yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. So like as he's saying, like they don't know how many there's going to be. Darius would look in his direction. We've passed your test. So answer me this. How many have that stench like that? I don't know what was wrong with it, but I've seen darkness. I've been close to darkness, and that was very much.
As you asked that, Jeremy, you look like you were getting ready to say something. If not, I'm going to go ahead. As you ask that, he looks at you, and the large Ozuman shaman walks over to that concrete table, and he reaches down into a pouch. And he pulls up a handful of what looks like some kind of dark sand. You would remember this sand as being the kind of sand that was on the shore of this place when we first moved the ships up here. It has black sand beaches that we discussed. And he throws out a handful of that black sand in the middle of the table. And he does like a prestidigitation kind of thing, where he holds up his hand and you can see his eyes kind of calm and move to a certain degree. And there's a circle that forms in the center of that and pushes all the other sand away from it. And he takes his finger and he points into the middle of that circle. That would say it'd be at least a quarter of them. By the shit thing that he's showing you, a quarter of them, of these warriors, are going to have that curse about them. This abnormality.
Are your people a danger to this crew in this fight?
He turns towards you as he's taking his hand and collecting up the sand, as he's making it swirl and form back in his palm with the two lower arms. The two upper ones are leaning on that large bone staff as he comes over and looks towards you. And it's amazing the emotion on this thing. This thing's face is tough and gnarled. You know, if that dingy white hair all around it and stuff, and all kinds of pendants and neat trinkets hanging within it. And as he turns and you hear some of these things chime, you see that kind of cataracted, weak, old eye look to this creature as he looks through you, trying to keep a little bit of his own might in the look. But past that is a sadness. Darius, as he looks at you, and he says, their souls remain adrift. We need to do this to save all of us. The Atlati and the Ozuman. They are steady for now, but I don't know for how long. The corruption grows. And that's his answer to you. Thinking back to the fight, you saw it had the ability to do some pretty crazy things, but when he put the vines out and the fight came to an end, it ended. The corrupted creature didn't go any further. You don't remember seeing any conflict between this shaman and that corrupted Ozuman that was in that fight that stood out and made an impact on you. but there was a very fearful presence that that thing had. It did seem to be a little bit more intense, a little bit more brutal, almost like a warrior going beside someone that's raging. That kind of difference. You know what I mean?
Right. So just to note two things. One, Darius knows very deeply how a curse or a disease or something that can cause this like a corruption. Like he's considering this corruption almost synonymous. Is that the word? Synonymous? Similar? To
You know what? I know exactly what you mean. So if that's not the word, buddy, it doesn't matter because I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yes.
yeah, he's putting those things together. So just know that if we spend time with the Ozuman, Darius is going to try to play the lament to see if it calms the creature down.
Awesome.
Just a
And
test.
when I was thinking about the Ozumen and where they're from and the things they go through and things here and the cataclysm and the breaking of the four spots, there's an interesting amount of thought that went into this. This is as deep down the rabbit hole as you want to go. If you're sick of the jungle at some point and you want to get the fuck out of here, get the fuck out of here. But trust me when I say that as I'm developing this around us to do this, there is shit that could tie us to this place for a long time if we let it. So it is as much as you want to do, guys. It's all good. And I'm glad we have those options. So yeah, it's neat that I'm getting ready to bring this out today in Merc and the old shamans talk outside. You're like, that's interesting, So this is a neat little side thing. So yeah, that maybe will remain that. Maybe come to the forefront. Who the fuck knows what you guys will do? Anyway,
We can always come back to because Darius would not want to stay here. But,
I know, right?
But coming back to cure this corruption when he's cured. But anyways, back in character. So
Yeah.
like when he says that, Darius will look towards Kiltusk. What do you all know about the Vasilian in their tactics and their strategies? They seem to be very primitive in the fights that I have been a part of with them. However, are they still reptilian and will they be affected like a typical reptile is affected by the cold, for example?
Corey, you can make this up. You can make this interesting. You can surprise your DM. You can go with the conversations that we've had. Whatever you want to do here, bud. Take the bull by the horns and pull, sir. Have fun with it. That's what we do here,
Kiltusk would respond to Corey and Darius saying, I believe that they should be affected by the cold. Because as far as I've heard in the past, these things won't have anything to do with being up in high places where it is less cold, where it's less warm. And if they don't get their right temperature, like environment temperature, it's more possible they will be less tough and less endurance in their fight.
Mercy would speak up in that moment because she came in with Celine earlier. And Mercy, the tall female with the one arm, we've already discussed what Mercy looks like with the large bird on her shoulder, says, and I can help with this. Kiltusk, how much of your paint do you have remaining? I have an incantation I can give them that will let the element of cold seep through their weaponry for a short while when needed in desperation. What do you got, Colby? So when she asks, how many paints do you have left? Do you have a clue?
I might say I have enough to finish off the rest of mine, and quite possibly enough to paint any more others if needed.
Okay. She sits down that bowl that she was grinding up some of those herbs and some of those things from the side. She goes in, she goes, "We will hold a ceremony. First thing in the morning before we leave. We shall imbue you with the mark of the Atlati, so that we can utilize this weakness." She goes, "For now I must work. We will need quite a bit of the paint to imbue you all, if you'll have this." Does anyone speak up at that point?
This paint, this paint of yours.
Yeah.
It can only imbue something with blood running through their veins, or can it imbue inanimate objects?
She would look at you and she would look with a bit of question, and she would try to clear her throat kind of like properly. And she would say, with hesitant words, she goes, "To activate and to utilize these markings, one must touch them to bring them into being. Have you not seen Kiltusk do this in
I
battle?"
have. The reason I ask is,
And she's listening, very interested in what you're saying. Go ahead.
as the DM goes, "Huh, is this something we can use?"
I'm going to let you talk me into it. I just hope you can. Go ahead.
I once was, I still am, I believe, a part of a group of people who fought against those who wished to oppress them, and was there to protect their clan, so to speak. I remember we utilized pots where we would fill the pot with water, and one of our mages could cast spells on these pots, which would allow them to, upon impact, explode with fire. I was wondering if we could do the opposite. Fill pots with water. Have those pots available for Kiltusk to shoot. And when that water spills out, the water would be freezing cold water. It may not do much but slow the Vizillion down, but every few feet that they stop, that's a few feet that we have to push them forward.
She thinks on to this for just a moment. She looks over at Kiltusk. Kiltusk, roll an Arcana check.
There's a really good show on, I think it's Netflix, that talks about like medieval fighting tactics and stuff.
That's cool.
They were talking about,
Oh yeah.
how they throw pots of oil that would burn and stuff.
No, that's no. I know what it is, man.
All right, Darius coming through with the siege warfare.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, I got to thinking, right? Like, he would have had done some of this back in the city, right? Like, he was part of a group of people who had to fight like this, right?
Mm-hmm. You're exactly right. What'd you get, Colby?
10.
A 10?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to try to keep it basic because 10 is pretty basic. You know that one of the abilities, one of the things that could be painted is elemental weapon, right? Now, if you were to put elemental weapon ice or cold on your bow, that would last for a certain amount of time, and your arrows would have that effect. Okay? But you don't know how intense that cold property is going to be if you were to hit something inanimate and want it to explode in ice. You know that you could, if you were to hit a Vizillion and get that arrow into them and breach them and get that cold into their blood, at a certain point they almost get the effects as if they've been exhausted or stunned or even a slow spell. It really starts sending the Vizillion into this shutdown mode when this shit gets into their veins. But with a 10, you can't think of making like exploding ice water bucket bombs, or you can't really fathom a way to make that work. So, as Darius has said this, and Mercy is kind of looking over at you for answers with her eyes, you're going to need to answer to the best of your ability here.
Okay. And Keltask would say, I am not sure about making like sort of a bomb, like an ice bomb, like you're mentioning, but I can possibly enchant my arrows with this, even though it may not affect a big group quickly enough. But I can't. But it will essentially shut them down and make them exhaust quicker, one by one.
Yeah. So not quite the mighty answer you were looking for there, Corey. You can tell it's something that they've not done before, and they seem to be having trouble finding a way to do exactly what it is you're talking about. That's the in-game translation of it, you know?
That makes sense. So as you say that, Kill Tusk, I understand. If we had more time, we could try to devise a more effective strategy. But in this moment, in this short amount of time that we have to prepare ourselves, this sounds like our best option.
Valdera speaks up and says, "What about a rune?" And she looks over at Bastille. And she goes, "What if there were ice runes laid down about? I've seen that happen before, right? Ice runes, you know?" And she kind of smiles. She goes, "What? Can we not activate something like that? You guys, I see a lot of runes, Bastille." And she points over at the Scion. And she goes, "If you guys have the ability to do something like that, I can lure them into those and trigger those. And I mean, hell, as long as you make them big enough, we could set that off and affect several at one time. You just gotta let me know if you can do it or not. And ice runes, you know what I'm right?" She does that. I'm gonna do an Arcana check for the Scion.
I'd like to speak up in that moment.
Please do.
Give a bardic inspiration to the Scion and be like, "Oh, I believe she means similar to, say, a bear trap," or, and I'm trying to get on her page with what primitive stuff would be like.
Right on, yeah.
But the difference would be the spell that would be cast on that rune would then implement upon stepping on that space.
Right before you get ready to give the inspiration, you could hear the bones crack of the Ozaman, Darius. And he would stand up proudly and look and goes, "I can do that." We can prepare those. We could have that ready. But I'll need to leave tonight to prepare under the veil of darkness. Yeah, so there's that. So he seems to think that he can do some kind of markings on the ground that will let something like that loose. Now, just for a point of reference, you know that he was one of the people to help do that spell circle that created this. And you also saw him do an area effect healing spell, Darius. There is a chance he has the ability to do something like that as long as it's carving ancient runes into the grounds and they'll explode with ice. So there's a chance he is not full of shit here.
As he says that, by the way, I realized I got like a fucking high ass passive insight. I didn't even think about that.
Hey, you know, can't think of everything.
Yeah, but as he says that, I'd like to accompany you in this journey to the battlefield. I want to prepare myself. I want to assist. Maybe there's a Sicilian there that we need to handle. We need to make this work.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so with that,
This is basically my way of so I can
Yeah.
play with the lament and see if it works.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. So he looks at you and looks you up and down one more time and smells, gives a wide sniff, and he goes, he nods and says, I'll be preparing to travel. Come to me when you're ready. And he walks outside the door, and he's going to go start preparing a spell outside to get them back to where they need to be.
Where the heck is Solo? Is she sleeping right now?
Yep. I
She's
can't
over
help
in the
it.
corner. Is she over in the corner?
No, she's inside Brahma sleeping.
Oh shoot!
Yeah,
Even
she's
better.
gone. That's why
Yeah.
I hate for all this to be going down, but that was her choice to do, which made sense in that moment. And so, because she did that, she was able to find this scroll and things of that nature, but she's passed out for right now.
I mean,
So,
like
yeah,
one
I'm
of those
sorry,
things,
Bella.
like you know, nothing ever happens at school until you miss school, and
Yeah,
suddenly
yeah.
it's like the best day ever.
Yeah, to
She's
be
going-
fair, to be fair, my mind was like, yeah, everybody's tired. They're gonna rest. We're gonna tackle this in the morning, so that's why.
Well, we'll try to go ahead and get there as best we can. I think we've discussed quite a bit, and I'm more than willing to go into this even more, just to facilitate that need of understanding here. We have an idea of who's going where and what they're doing. Darius is wanting to travel back to where these Ozamen call their home for a couple different reasons. One, he wants to be there when they're laying out these frost runes around the temple of Yoda. So maybe he gets a first-hand look at that tonight. Who knows, if they get that done in an hour or two, he may be able to sleep there amongst their people and spend the rest of that night there and get at least a short rest out of it, right? Where the rest of us will be camping back here and meeting them there the next day, right? So, that's not bad. Is there anyone else that wants to speak up as far as planning for the night? I know Merc hasn't had a chance to say a whole lot as this is all going down. The last thing you heard is Darius offering to go to help lay out these frost runes, if that's something they can do and get a look and get some insight. Do you have anything to say in that moment? Okay. So with that, he's out there preparing that circle. Rursi is preparing. We got all kinds of things going on. The Scion's trying to get rested up. Braxel's over there by her side. We've got Kiltus thinking about trying to do up some paint. She's making extra paints for people to be able to have the elemental weapon rune painted upon them in a ceremony first thing before we leave in the morning. All kinds of different things going on. I'm good with pushing forward a little bit and saying that we're going to go into our long rest for the night. How does everybody feel about that, or is there something more y'all would like to accomplish before we do it?
I'm here.
What do you think, Corey?
Yeah, I mean, so just to throw it out there, I don't need a scene for that piece. That's mostly was just for me to be able to say, hey, Brian, does this work on the monkey guys? If not, then I know, because basically my intentions is in the middle of battle, if those monkey guys start going crazy, I'm using my action to chill them out because I need them on my side, right?
Okay.
And it'll also help me because then it'll help me bring my bloodlust down. But if it doesn't work on them, then I know not to waste that out of character.
That makes sense.
I don't like if you want to run a scene for it, I'll run it. But and then I kind of anticipated there might be a risk of not getting a long rest to go do it, but to make sure the battlefield is set up was worth it. So I haven't done a long rest on my character yet. But I mean, even if we do a short rest, he'll heal up all the way. He just won't have all his magic points.
Okay, that's fair. All right. Well, I think this is going to be a good spot to take our first break. I don't know how much longer we'll go on today. I have some things I'm trying to cook and stuff and getting ready for to get together and whatever we try to get accomplished tonight. So I'll go ahead and pause these. We'll have a discussion and see how much longer we want to go. But as far as jumping into the actual act of the storm on that, I want to make sure we get Danny and Sean in this, if at all possible. So this will be more of a preparation, role play, get into cool shit and see what happens kind of game, which it has been so far, which has been interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready to pause these. Just a minute here. Oh, stop your silliness. Let's pause, and this is... And 3, 2, 1, pause. Okay, so we're back. Kind of. Nothing for sure here. So, because the smell of beer lingers, and because the beckoning of the upcoming party calls, we have decided that after this break, we're going to do a couple interesting things. Bella, which has been really, really patient this episode, has a few things that she wants to do once she wakes up and comes out of this rest. She wants to do some things, be heard. Corey has decided to take Darius over to where some of these Ozamen are actually from and help them prepare some of these frost runes that the old wise shaman says he can put down, which would be great if Kiltus could activate those from distance. We don't know how it's going to go. We don't know. It's going to be awesome, right? One way or another. As long as it's not a total party kill, will be great. And so we have different things in motion. We're all going to go ahead and call it quits for tonight and get ready for Super Bowl and get ready to do all the fun things that we do. And I think I'm going to get a hold of Corey throughout the week. And one afternoon for an hour, we're going to act out what it's like when he goes to the place where those men are from. What it's like to work with a few of them and put these runes down. I'm going to have a chance to look into some spells and make sure I get all the stuff right. So when we do this, it makes perfect sense instead of half-assing it. Which I could do. It's all good. It's all about having fun. It's not about being accurate. And then we may even do a scene with Bella that I'll edit into this episode, where it's the things that she's taking care of either inside of Brahmas or outside. Like I say, there's a literal... It's the buffet in here of different things that everyone can interact with. We have all these different characters in different spots within the hunting lodge doing so many different things. So it'll be a neat creative adventure for us. So without any further hesitation, I'm Brian Kynes. I want to thank you guys again for joining us for it was a quick 2 hours, man. It went by pretty fast, to tell you the truth. There's a lot of jibbing and jabbing, but it was cool. Once again, thanking you guys for joining in, and we will see you guys sometime this week. I guess the best way to say it. Until then, take care, and we'll talk to y'all then.